So, the title of today's sermon is Wisdom from Elsewhere. It comes from Matthew 2 1 through 12. This story, it's not a real story, but it's based on a couple of different stories that I had in mind. I was thinking of With Honors, the movie with Joe Pesci and Brendan Fraser. So, I want you to listen to this story. It's a busy weekday morning in the heart of the city. A man, let's call him Mark, rushes down the crowded sidewalks, juggling his phone, a coffee, maybe his briefcase. His mind is racing with thoughts about an important meeting he's already late for. As he passes a homeless man sitting on the curb, he absent-mindedly drops the change from his coffee, the purchase that he made earlier, primarily because he hates having change in his pockets, and it seemed like an appropriate use for it. "Thank you," the homeless man calls out, his voice steady and clear. "But do you know what you're rushing toward?" The homeless man asks. Question stops Mark mid-stride. It's not the usual "God bless you" or "Have a nice day." The words hang in the air like a riddle. He glances back, unsure if he heard correctly. The homeless man, wearing a patched jacket and an old knit cap, looks up with calm, curious eyes. He's not asking for more money. He's asking something deeper. Mark, feeling a mix of curiosity and discomfort, turns and walks back. "What did you say?" he asks. "I asked if you know what you're rushing towards," the man replies, gesturing for Mark to sit down on the bench beside him. "You look like someone running a race, but not sure where the finish line is." Caught off guard, but intrigued, Mark sits. "I've got a big meeting," he says defensively. "Deadlines, expectations, you know how it is." The homeless man nods. "Sure, I know. I used to have my own deadlines and expectations. But one day, I realized I was running so fast, but I didn't know why, or even think about where I was going. You ever think about that?" Mark frowns. "What do you mean?" "Well, it means that you can't measure success by how busy you are. Ask yourself, what's all this running for? What's the point?" Mark looks down at his phone, the emails piling up. "I don't know," he admits quietly. I guess I just keep going." The man smiles faintly. "Well, if you don't know, then how do you know where you're going in the right direction?" The question strikes a chord. Mark suddenly sees his morning in a different light. The rushed coffee, the hurried commute, the constant stress. For the first time in months, he wonders if all the hustle is truly leading him somewhere meaningful. "What should I do then?" Mark asks, leaning forward. The man chuckles. "Well, that's for you to figure out. But here's the next question to ask yourself. If today was your last day of your race, would you be proud where you ended up?" Mark sits in stunned silence. The meeting, the emails, the chaos, all of it feels less urgent, less significant. The homeless man's question becomes a seed planted deep in his mind, one that will grow and challenge him long after he walks away. Now, just as the homeless man's question brought Mark to a moment of deep reflection, wisdom often comes from unexpected places and people. The Magi were outsiders, strangers to Jerusalem, strangers to the Jewish tradition. Yet their journey brought profound gifts of insight and purpose. Are we, like Mark, open to pausing long enough to reconcile and accept the wisdom being offered to us, even from the most unlikely sources? The story of the Magi, often referred to as the Three Wismen, is rich with meaning and application for our lives today. These figures were likely Zoroastrian priests from Persia, individuals deeply learned in astronomy, philosophy, and astrology is what they were actually training in, and their own religious traditions. Their journey to honor the Christ child reminds us of the value of seeking wisdom, even from sources outside our usual traditions or comfort zones. In today's sermon, we'll explore the idea of wisdom from elsewhere and how the presence of the Magi in the Gospel narrative encompasses us to recognize the value of wise counsel from unexpected places, appreciate the gifts of wisdom in all their forms, and reflect on the deeper meaning of the gifts brought by the Magi: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. The Magi were not Jewish, nor did they adhere to the Mosaic law, yet they recognized the significance of the birth of Christ through their study of the stars and ancient prophecies. This teaches us that wisdom is not confined to any one tradition or group. So we have these expressions like, "Don't look a gift horse in the mouth." Sometimes wise counsel comes from unexpected sources, so we need to be open to it. Learning from our experiences is essential for growth, even when there's failure. Every interaction, whether with people of similar or different beliefs, can teach us something valuable. There is a sense of humility in seeking truth. The Magi journeyed far, demonstrating humility in their pursuit of wisdom. Are we willing to go beyond our usual boundaries to seek deeper understanding? Now, there is symbolism in the three gifts. The gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh were not random. They were deeply symbolic. Let's examine how each can represent types of wisdom Jesus wants us to embrace. Gold could represent wisdom for leadership and stewardship. Gold represents kingship and authority. It signifies wisdom in leadership, financial stewardship, and making decisions with integrity. Are we using the wisdom we've gained to lead with fairness, generosity, and responsibility? Frankincense, used in worship, represents wisdom in our spiritual lives. It reminds us to cultivate deep personal relationships with God and to honor the sacred. Are we open to learning from others' spiritual practices, even if they're different from our own? For example, could we borrow Buddhism, concept of meditation, and bring it into Christianity? Myrrh, wisdom in mortality and purpose. Myrrh is often associated with an embalming fluid of ancient days. This points out wisdom in life's brevity, the briefness of life, and how we need to live life with purpose. It reminds us to live meaningfully and to accept the transformative power of challenges and endings. Are we seeking wisdom, even in pain and loss, knowing it can guide us to growth? Sometimes we need to be ready to accept wise gifts. The Magi's journey, the gifts, the homage to Jesus, illustrate the importance of receiving wisdom with gratitude, regardless of where it comes from. Their actions challenge us to be open-minded. Wisdom can come from diverse traditions, experiences, or people, but we also need to cultivate discernment. Not all advice is good advice. Seek wisdom that aligns with the truth and integrity, wisdom that aligns or complements the teachings of Jesus for us Christians. We need to embrace growth. Every wise gift, even hard lessons, can transform us if we let it. Now, what does Jesus want us to know? What is God teaching us in this story? Well, the three things I want you to remember are gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Like this. Gold. Value wisdom that equips you to lead well. Frankincense. Honor wisdom that deepens your connection to the divine. Myrrh. Respect wisdom that helps you understand life's seasons and purposes. Let us, like the Magi, embark on journeys of humility and curiosity, seeking wisdom wherever it may be found. Let us remember that Jesus, the embodiment of divine wisdom, came not to hoard knowledge, but to share it. A universal gift for all humanity. Now there is a call to action. As you leave today, reflect on the sources of wisdom in your own life. Who or what has guided you unexpectedly? What gifts have you received that have deepened your understanding or purpose? Let us thank God for the wise gifts in all their forms and commit to being open to wisdom from elsewhere. That is our message for today.